And it is time once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am Warren Hayes. How is everybody doing? Hope you're having a good week so far. It is August 14. I didn't know what to say. August 14, 2025. We, of course, are going to be talking about the Dynamite that happened on August 13, 2025. That took place at the Andrew J. Brady Music Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. Not the first time that AEW shows up in this venue. Probably won't be the last. I enjoy this place, this venue. I liked it. I said it the last time they were there, and back again. Last night. I really do enjoy that venue. I can't feel like I can extend the same sentiment to the show overall. I didn't care much for last night's Dynamite, and here's the thing. I've talked about it a few times in the past, and but it's been a while since I've brought it up. And just in case you're new here, I appreciate and enjoy people who do post shows, instant reactions, that kind of stuff. I really do appreciate people who are able to do that on a regular basis. I find it very difficult because I like to, and it's just a personal thing. When I finish a show, I like to have some distance from it. Ideally, wake up the next day, and then sort of put everything into place and see if I'm being how much am I being reasonable and how much am I being emotional, just pure out emotion, right? Because there's stuff that happened last night with when that made me upset, and when I finished watching the show, I said I turned off the TV and I was like, yeah, we'll see how I'm feeling tomorrow, right? Because right now, this I don't think this was a good episode of Dynamite, and I turn it off and I go to bed. And I wake up this morning and I'm like, no, you know what? This was not a good episode of AEW Dynamite. I'm still in that same vibe. So we're not going to be throwing any flowers here today. Not that everything was bad. I think there's a few things. We'll go through the whole thing. There's a few things here and there that were quite good. But overall, the main problem I have with last night's show is that I feel like we're falling back into bad patterns that we had last year, like last fall and somewhat into early winter, when AEW felt very slapdash, put together very hastily, not seeing really connections between the stories. They don't. The angles, the stories don't feel as thought through or well put together. I kind of feel we're slowly going down that route again, because last night's episode really did feel like it was just things being thrown together, and my concern comes exactly from what happened last year, where Tony Khan said it himself. Like, during the football season, he's not as involved in booking as he is when it's off season for the NFL. And guess what's happening right now? We're slowly getting into pro football season. Like, it hasn't kicked off, but we're getting there. And suddenly, the quality of what's being presented and the matches, how they're being presented and how they're being booked and how the angles are being approached, they all feel like there isn't as much care being put in them, if that makes sense. And I'm sure it does. And this is a problem that existed last year that a lot of us were complaining about, that the booking was just all over the place, that it didn't feel cohesive, and there was, we rely a lot on many sports entertainment tropes, and we were moving away from things that really help people connect with the company. Now, Forbidden Door season, for as much as all of the grief that it always seems to get every year, well, that's the point, right? Despite all the grief that it's getting this year, it's the same grief that it gets, that it has been getting, at least for the past couple of years. Maybe not from the get-go, but, one of the persistent criticisms about the Forbidden Door show is how everything is so hastily put together and nothing has time to breathe and all these matches just feel thrown together and so on and so forth. But look, last week on this very review, we talked about Forbidden Door, so I'm not going to rehash all the points as to why Forbidden Door is what it is and how it will never be probably like it used to be back when it started, but we're not rehashing all of that. But I did bring it up because I did bring this up because every year we go through the same thing with Forbidden Door, where it's like, why are things being booked so hastily? There's no thought being put into it. Why is Jack Perry challenging for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship? All this stuff, right? It's a consistent theme every year. So maybe it's just because we're trying to give direction to a pay-per-view, which is very difficult to have a direction on or with. And maybe things will iron themselves out for All Out, which is quite possible. But I got to tell you, between us, I'm seeing, last night I saw a lot of bad habits pop up in AEW. I've seen a lot of things from last night's show that harken back to not that long ago when a lot of us were criticizing how little care there seemed to be in the booking and angles and whatnot. It's fascinating because I think it's hard to argue that in the period before All In Texas, I would go easily from the Owen Hart Cup to All In Texas. That whole period was booked with such finesse and up and down the card. Everything felt purposeful. Everything felt good. You were getting some good matches, some great matchups out of it, some great combinations. Things felt fresh. Things felt dynamic. It felt like the audience was being listened to. I find it hard to believe that AEW would so quickly lose sight of what made things so good for All In. Maybe I'm getting upset at something that hasn't happened yet either. Maybe this is just a bump in the road. But I remember having this same type of conversations often, was like, maybe this is just a bump in the road. And then it turns out where it's like the starting point, the catalyst of things being much worse off. And I'm sure you as an AEW fan, myself, we don't want this to happen. We don't want to go down the road again that we were on, in November, December, January, February, 2024 to 2025. I don't think anyone wants that. We want to continue these good vibes. We want to continue to this good environment. Hopefully that's still the plan. Anyway, I want to move on because I think you'll get a better sense of what I'm trying to get at as we dive deeper into the show. But as it stands, 1,418 tickets were distributed for the show last night, of course, according to WrestleTix. The last time they were here was earlier this year, of course, in January, where they drew 1,570. A little less, about 100 people less. Look, this is not going to be the moment where we're going to start talking about, getting deep into attendance, because there's really other things that I want to talk about. But we're going to put a pin on that. I'm probably going to circle back around as to why we're not, why why are we not seeing like notable increases, so on and so forth? And why does AEW struggle so much to get people to go to the live TV tapings on a weekly basis, but the pay-per-views are usually not a problem? I say usually, of course. But we'll get into that in another day. We've got a lot to talk about on the show. So let's just get right to it. It starts off with MJF and Hangman having their face-to-face confrontation. MJF calls them both two day one homegrown stars. Excuse me. I was able to get through that. Congratulations on me. The main character and the antagonist. Adam Page mocks MJF's B-level villain bits. And, giving him the line, he said, "You like to call me Seabiscuit, but you know what happens to Seabiscuit in the end? He wins." And, MJF, of course, is trying to goad Hangman into losing his cool and challenging MJF to come for the title without using his contract. But Page stands firm and eventually starts calling Max an insecure, gutless coward because he basically egging him on to give up his contract, which he did. He executed his contract. God, I hate the insincere verbiage that goes along with it. And you can tell when the wrestlers are saying it, right? You are going to execute your Casino Gauntlet AEW world title shot contract. It's like, oh my God, like that is legitimately 100% WWE behavior. Just, execute the contract. It's like, it gives me shivers up and down my spine. I hate it because it sounds phony coming out of the mouths, right? So anyway, after calling him an insecure, gutless coward, MJF, loses his cool and basically, because MJF up until that point was acting like he had a match at Forbidden Door with Hangman, and Hangman went, no, you don't. You don't have a match with me. What are you talking about? You know what you have to do and do it. But we're here having this talk and you're acting like you have the match. You don't. So do something about it. And eventually Max does lose his cool and executes his contract so that he can get a shot at Hangman's world title at Forbidden Door. So that wraps up that segment. Page calls him a dumbass and MJF sort of realizes that he's been played. Now, I like this segment a lot. I often say, you know me, I'm not a big fan of talk segments opening up shows. If you've got a very important, crucial thing that you need to get out of the way at the top of the hour that isn't a match, do it. I much prefer sitting down to watch my wrestling and getting a wrestling match. That is undeniable, unless there's an opening angle that you absolutely have to do at the start to get it out of the way. Did this have to be the opening segment? No. I think they put it here because of, I think they opened with it because of the overrun people, and they want to make sure that this angle gets the most viewership possible. And, I guess that's why they did it, but it was a good segment, but it could have been anywhere on the card, is my point. We didn't have to start with this. That being said, look, Page said it himself. I had a concern last week before we go any further. I had a concern last week that Hangman was going to capitulate and give in to Max's needling, right? And turns out he didn't, and that's good. Because that means, again, from a development standpoint for both of these wrestlers, Hangman has evolved. Like I said last week, Hangman at this point was about getting rid of the past, moving forward, and becoming the man that he is now, confident, steadfast, world champion who's not going to get suckered in, by these trivial little mind games that MJF has been doing since the start. And MJF has been the same man, the same person ever since he started. So the question, to me, the underlying angle here for MJF is, how does MJF evolve? How does he change as a character, as a person, as a wrestling persona, as opposed to staying, the what did he called him, the B-level edgelord villain, right? Something to that effect, which is who he is, right? Which is what MJF has always been. And maybe there should be some nuance. I think this might be a good starting place when, once MJF does beat Hangman at Forbidden Door, because Hangman's not losing at Forbidden Door, folks. I see you Hangman fans already anxious. I see, and I called it. I said then the Hangman fans would not stop being anxious with Hangman winning against Mox at All In. They just continue to be anxious, right? And I know most people have already, most people have tossed MJF aside, right? It's like MJF is bad, right? And that's as far as they're going to go with it. But I can't wait for this match. This is going to be a terrific match. Every time these guys have had matches against one another, they've been awesome. I am very much looking forward to this match. And look, as long as Max's sports entertaining instincts are kept to a minimum, we're in for a treat. This is going to be a great main event, considering it is the main event. But some people are thinking that might be something else. But I still think it's going to be this one. It's just the track record of main events. I don't know why anyone would think it would be otherwise. Anyway, let's move on. We get Jon Moxley, who's outside on the arena steps, at least the venue steps, and he basically tells Darby Allin that I don't know what you think is happening at Forbidden Door, but it isn't happening, and he's flanked by Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta, and they walk into the building for the first match of the night, where Jon Moxley defeated Kevin Knight in a good match. I thought this was a lot of fun, and you've got Mox here working really hard with Kevin Knight, and Kevin Knight has given him back quite a bit, and it's a physical match. Kevin Knight gets to show his agility throughout it as well. Nonetheless, it's not just throwing bombs and being, just being stiff with each other. This was really good. And again, Mox looked fantastic in this spot. He is so good at, maximizing everything that he does so that it looks its best, right? And he's just in pure ass kicker mode. He's not trying to be, like we've talked about before, he's not trying to be blood sport Mox, grapple fuck dude. He's just going in there to kick people's asses. And he looks great in the process. And he's not doing these super elaborate sequences. He's not trying to, he's not trying to go above and beyond what he's capable of doing. But what he does, he is so good at that it makes the whole match shine, makes his opponent shine. And Kevin Knight answered the call. I think I liked this better than the speedball match last week. I think this was much better. I think Kevin Knight dove into this opportunity and just tore right at it. I think he was able to match Mox's energy. This was really good. This was really, really good. Yuta gets involved in the match to counter Kevin Knight, who was on a tear, having this really great sequence, which then allows Mox to lift the knees on a UFO splash and rolls him into a flat choke right on the mat, to which Kevin Knight taps out to, and Mox gets the win. After the match, the Death Riders go after Kevin Knight, but Darby Allin comes out for the save, and he's got his he's got his skateboard, and he's got a body bag with him as well. So he clears Mox and Shafir, and he puts Yuta into the bag after doing an ollie off his back. And then he starts climbing the ropes. And Claudio Castagnoli, who we hadn't seen in a couple of weeks, runs out of nowhere, knocks him down, and puts Darby into the bag. And Claudio picks him up on his shoulders and pulls out the Alpamare water slide. I think you pronounce it Alpamare. It's probably not exactly correct. But look, you want to talk about digging deep? There you go. Claudio Castagnoli doing the Alpamare water slide on Darby Allin, who is in a body bag. And eventually it's Will Ospreay who charges in, attacks Claudio, throwing him over the timekeeper's spot, and hits Yuta with a hidden blade. And then Ospreay gets on the mic, calls out Mox for trying to break his neck, and then lays down the challenge for a lights out cage match at Forbidden Door, which basically says, get your friends, I'll get mine. And it was all completed later on in the evening. This match for Forbidden Door that is put together in a cage match is going to have Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Darby Allin taking on Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, the Young Bucks, and Gabe Kidd. So a good little segment, if not a little all over the place, a little. I think this one lacked a little bit of focus, but it wasn't too bad. I enjoyed the segment, set up the match. I don't know why we're taking a bit of a left turn and including Ospreay into this Mox Darby Allin thing. Look, I don't know if this is just something to fill up a match, a crossover match at Forbidden Door. I don't know if we're trying to do that, or if we're pivoting away for some reason from Mox and Darby and going straight for Mox and Will. This sort of mixes up the cards a little bit. I'm curious to see where we're going with this. I still think that they're going to be doing Mox versus Darby, and they could be setting it up for All Out. But Ospreay coming out for blood here essentially mullies, it shuffles the deck. It muddies the waters. That's what I was looking for. It's like mullies. Mullies is not a word. What the hell is what are we mullying? It muddies the waters, though, to have Will jump in and be in this spot. We'll keep an eye on this, but it might be a pivot. It might just be, let's do this to fill up a match for Forbidden Door because we want to pay off Mox and Darby at All Out. I wouldn't see why they'd want to move away from that unless there's things happening that we're not privy to. We will keep an eye on this. We get a video package, quick hype video recapping all of the Adam Copeland versus Stokely Hathaway stuff. Oh yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Alex Windsor, Queen Aminata, Willow Nightingale defeat Mercedes Moné, Sky Blue, and Tekla. This was fine. It was an aggressively fine match. I didn't think it was all that terrific. You also had Timeless Toni Storm and Athena up in the rafters looking down at the match. I don't know. It wasn't the complete and utter doldrums, but I also thought it was fine. It was an aggressively fine match, which sometimes I think it's weird because when you get a trios match with all of these women who are, for the most part, extremely talented and terrific, and a lot of people that the audience want to see in the rings. I don't know why it doesn't blow the roof off the joint. I don't know if it's just because, everyone's trying to get their shit in. I don't know if it's chemistry questions. I don't know. But, the match itself continues to serve its purpose and, set little angles and little feuds. We're continuing just to tease at Aminata and Tekla. And of course, we're setting up Mercedes and Alex Windsor. Anyway, Windsor gets the win, applying the sharpshooter or the Scorpion Deathlock or the Darkness Scorpion to Sky Blue to get the win. After the match, Athena attacks Toni Storm up in the rafters, and they fight and Athena drags Toni Storm all the way down to ringside. Meanwhile, Mercedes is getting her pound of flesh on on Alex Windsor. She's got the crossface, the statement maker, right? That's the one. The one is the money maker when she does the flippy do, which no one likes, and the statement maker is the crossface, right? And then Athena and Mercedes seem to have like an understanding. Okay, you beat up your girl, I'll beat up mine. But then Windsor and Toni Storm fight back, and Storm cuts a promo about taking the low road to Scotland and saying that she hopes that the ladies will wear something under their kilts because otherwise they are going to bareback them all the way to Glasgow. So there you go. Of course, that's due to the fact that the Dynamite next week is going to be in Glasgow. So it will not be live. It will be taped. So there you go. Again, like aggressively fine match. Nothing to write home about. And, I kind of feel like these angles aren't being treated with all the utmost care that you thought they would be. Anyway, Will Ospreay meets up with Renee Paquette backstage. That's where he reveals that Hiroshi Tanahashi is going to be in the cage match, and says, "I'm going to get some more friends." And it's later on that we get the whole reveal for all of Team Ospreay, I guess. Here's two thoughts really quickly. Hiroshi Tanahashi, Will said it, right? I want, called an old friend to try and get him to jump off a cage one last time. I can only imagine that. Hiroshi Tanahashi in 2025 jumping off a cage for doing a high fly flow or whatever and landing on the mat and just exploding into a million pieces. That's just insane to me. There's a lot of people who are like, I can't believe Tanahashi's going to be doing a cage match. That's nuts what the state of his body is in. Listen, I think it's actually the best possible use because there's 4 other guys in the match with him. He doesn't have to carry the match. He doesn't even have to do all that much. He can be pounded on in the corner. Oh, that sounded great, didn't it? He can be kicked down and pummeled in the corner by anyone while he's so sort of take a breath, relax, get off his knees for a bit. Everyone, I won't be surprised in the least if it turns out that Tanahashi is the guy who works the least in this match and gets a couple of big spots in and probably gets the win for his team, and that'll be that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the road we're going down. I don't know why people think Hiroshi Tanahashi is suddenly going to be like truly working a full-on cage match like it's it's this blood and guts and he's going to be completely destroyed. I don't know. I don't understand what the thought process here is. Second thought here is Kota Ibushi working a show that has a New Japan Lion mark on is utterly wild to me, right? He's working with the president of the company that 2 years ago he was accusing of having killed his mother, and not so subtly talked about, ties to organized crime in Japan. I'm avoiding using the name because I'm a coward. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy what just a couple of years can do. I never thought there's probably even audio of me out there or, a stream where someone is, where we're talking about Kota Ibushi working a Forbidden Door show. And I'm saying, that can't happen. And, he left the company on such a sour note. There is absolutely no way, not so soon, that Kota Ibushi's getting into a New Japan ring, wrestling New Japan people, whatever. That's just not happening. And here we are. Here we are, not only on a co-branded New Japan show, but also wrestling with the president of said company. Oh well. Adam Copeland defeats Stokely Hathaway by disqualification. I want to get to something really quickly. I am chomping at the bit to get to this, because I thought this stunk. I thought this was awful. But here, Cope gets to the ring and has people sing a song, right? And then security has to drag Stokely out from backstage to get him to the ring. And then we have comedy spots. Tee-hee-hee. It's comedy. And when I was thinking about this match last week, I said on the review that I'm likely not going to like this. And I didn't. And the only thing, by the way, I really didn't. And the only way I thought that this was going to work is if the natural charisma and impeccable comedy timing that Stokely Hathaway has it's only if his comedic chops can do something to make this interesting. But no, it was very standard. It was, look, Adam Copeland, Cope, gets on a microphone and says, "How many hoes do we have here in the building tonight?" as he's fighting with Stokely into the audience. And I'm like, what? And you hear some, yee. How many hoes do we have here in the building tonight? And then turns to a girl in the audience. He's got the microphone in his hand. He's cutting this mid-match promo. And he turns to the girl and says, would you hook up with Stokely? Right? So obviously he looks at this girl and she says, she looks like a hoe, because I'm looking for hoes. So you're a hoe. Hey, like, he didn't introduce it that way, but he might as well have at that point, where he just asked the audience, are there any hoes in the building? Hey, you're a hoe. You look like a hoe. Would you hook up with Stokely? Like, I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, not only is it not funny, it's cringe. It is impeccably cringe and awkward. And this is the kind of stuff that if you're watching with someone who doesn't watch pro wrestling and you're like, hey, this AEW stuff is not too bad, but you should, and you're sitting there and this guy's going around asking if there's hoes in the building, your friend can look, give you a little side glance and you're just sitting there going, get into the ring, FTR interfere, this whole nonsense about the whole nonsense about the fucking restraining order or whatever, that's all out the window. Stoke throws some powder. The referee calls the match, and does the forces the DQ essentially, and then FTR go after Copeland, and then Christian Cage, his music hits. He can't just run in. We got to get the and then he comes running out, at the flourish, right? That's when he runs out. He could have run out during the entire countdown. It's like, what is it? It's like 9 seconds of countdown that you have the seconds show up. That's part of the gimmick. He could have run out at any given moment, but no, we're going to wait till we get at the precise moment where he's supposed to run out. And he runs out and he's got, the fucking nail bat, right? He's got Carol or Jenna, whatever the fucking Spike, whatever, and he has the bat. He has Cope's bat. What did he do? He went backstage to fish around in Copeland's, or did he take the bat last week? I don't remember because it's insignificant, because I don't care. because ultimately I don't care. I don't think Christian Cage ran off with the bat. I think Adam Copeland hang on with the bat, right? Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, folks, but I don't understand why he has the bat. And he comes in to chase off FTR, and then Nick Wayne shows up with a chair. Nick Wayne goes after Cage, but Cage swings the bat at the chair, knocking it out of Nick Wayne's hands, and Nick Wayne takes a powder. And then after that, what does this all lead to? It leads to Cope and Cage hugging in the middle of the ring, and there's tension. You know, they don't fully trust each other because they know each other so well, and et cetera, et cetera. So there's still conflict there. I want to know what Christian Cage what he found, right? Because Cope told him, go find yourself. What happened within the space of 10 days, 2 weeks, where he made this complete turnaround? I say that, but I really don't care all that much. You know why? Because this stunk. This was bad. All this segment was bad. This was some prime WWE 2016 bullshit. All falling into all of these sports entertainment patterns, the manager, getting beaten down, tee-hee-hee. It's a comedy match because he's not a wrestler, hee-hee-hee. And the convoluted post-match where you got too much stuff getting stuffed into it, right? There's just too many things happening. You could have had just FTR. You could have had just FTR beat them down, just beat both of them. You could have done that, or you could have had Nick Wayne come in and join in, and then they all get the upper hand. Then the heels get the upper hand because it's a 5-on-2, right? But no, we had to rush to the hug. We had to get to the reconciliation. This had to happen now for some reason. And then this set up Adam Copeland and Christian Cage for Forbidden Door against Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, so the plan is clearly to rush Cage versus Wayne so we can get to both of those dudes versus FTR in Toronto, probably for the tag titles, right? And this is what I hate about what we're doing. There's a lot of things that I hate about this, but one of the things that sticks out to me is that we're depriving Nick Wayne of a big-time feud with Christian Cage, something that has been boiling, simmering for as long as this patriarchy thing has started, right? Everyone was on the same wavelength when it all started. It's like everyone was thinking, oh, the day that Nick Wayne is going to turn on Christian Cage is going to be a big deal. Well, it's not going to be a big deal because we really have to go to these two schmucks reuniting, going after the nostalgia, not thinking about building anyone new, not giving Nick Wayne a chance for his first big time feud where he could shine, he could show whatever he has to offer, finally get the center stage in a feud that matters to AEW fans because this one has been going on for so long. We've been waiting for the payoff for so long. No, instead, we're going to rush to this tag team with Cope, this reuniting that they've done before. They've reunited before. I think this is the third time they're reuniting. But we got to rush to that because nostalgia, because the feels. This is exactly on the same level as the other guys running, the Dudleys versus the Hardys in a tables match, right? In a TLC match. It's the same level. It doesn't create anything new. It feeds off of feelings we had once in the past with people who are 100% past their prime, which are incredibly past their prime. And I hate all of this because I hate that they're doing this to Nick Wayne, because you know that deep in his heart, Christian Cage had been working towards this, has been setting seeds all throughout, like not even just recently, right? Not even just the stuff that was happening earlier this year. In the past, just setting seeds everywhere so that when the explosion did happen, it would be meaningful, because Christian Cage gets it. Adam Copeland doesn't. Adam Copeland, all this does is serve him. It serves him. Look, I really liked Adam Copeland when he joined AEW, and I was part of the group that had tons of apprehensions. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure at all he was going to fit in, but he fit in. His early stuff in AEW is tremendous. And why do you think that? What is the thing that made it tremendous back then, and then afterwards started to slip and wasn't as good? What was the thing? What's the one detail that could explain as to why Cope was good at first and then started to slip? I'll tell you. It's because he was feuding with Christian Cage, a guy who absolutely understood the mandate of how to get things over in AEW. And he worked that perfectly. If Adam Copeland, like I could see, and I'm not saying this happened, but I could see, Cage and Copeland sitting down and bouncing ideas, and Copeland having these grand sports entertainment, Vince-like ideas, and Cage going, yeah, this is all good, but that's not going to work here because the audience is different and they're expecting something else. So why don't we try going down this route instead? You'd be hard pressed to argue that the initial run from, the go fuck yourself line right to their big TNT title match, you'd be hard pressed to find a more interesting Adam Copeland in years. And I think everyone can agree on that. Then he's removed from Christian Cage. And look what happens. Just look at the track record of everything that's happened since he's been, unaffiliated with Christian. Not good, pal. And all throughout, all he's been doing is doing things for himself and not putting anyone over. Look, Adam Copeland, and here's something that a lot of people are not going to enjoy hearing. Are you ready for this? Adam Copeland is what people accused Chris Jericho of doing for years in AEW. He comes in, he does things his way, he barely loses any matches, doesn't put anyone over. Everything that people have accused Chris Jericho of doing, you can carbon copy that and place it on Adam Copeland, and it will make sense with Adam Copeland. It will be the truth. That's the difference. And look, I have it right here. Listen, you don't believe me? Since joining AEW, Adam Copeland has wrestled 34 matches. Tag teams, trios, singles. In that, he has had 25 wins, 8 losses, and 1 draw. And he has beaten people. You want a list of people that he's beaten? Luchasaurus, Griff Garrison, Lee Moriarty, Dante Martin, Daniel Garcia, Minoru Suzuki, Matt Cardona. All right, that's fine. Matt Cardona, that's a pass. Penta, Buddy Matthews, Brody King, Kyle Fletcher, Malachi Black, Big Bill, Pac, Wheeler, Claudio, and now Stokely Hathaway. These are all people that he's built. A nice little mixture of young guys who could probably have used a little more rub and established stars that AEW fans really like, that AEW fans are behind, that they feel are theirs. But he just ran through all of these people. Who did Adam Copeland lose to? I said he lost 8 matches. 4 of those are singles matches. Who did he? without checking anything right now, pop quiz, folks, listeners of the podcast. Pop quiz right now. Who has Adam Copeland lost to in singles matches? That's okay. I'll wait. Or you know what? No, I won't wait. Pause the video and then figure it out, okay? I'm not going to create some dead air here. What are we doing? He's lost to Christian Cage twice and Jon Moxley twice. Those are the only two people. Of course, there's this one instance where it was a singles match that turned into a three-way because of the cash-in, but nonetheless, I still consider that a singles match with the way things went down. He lost 4 matches to the two same people in this company. That is disgusting. And this is a guy that somehow, some way, we still think is this big deal, this game changer, this draw. When WWE, what was it, in 2022? I think it was 2022 or 2023. I think it was 2022. When Copeland won the Royal Rumble, remember that? And he started, because everyone was so excited for his return, and he started shopping around, what belt am I going to challenge for, right? You remember that? So he went to Raw, he went to SmackDown, and he went to NXT, right? And in none of those circumstances did he pop a number, did any of his quarter hours rating-wise, did they ever peak or anything? He moved zero business. In fact, if you all recall correctly, the WrestleMania match that he ended up having with Roman Reigns was so underwhelming and had such little buzz that they made it a 3-way match with Bryan Danielson. If you recall this. Even WWE had figured out that Edge meant nothing to anyone's bottom line. And here in AEW, we're treating him like he is like he's Brock Lesnar, essentially. Let's get real here. And we're giving him free reign to do these goofy ass sports entertainment, but not even recent sport. We're talking old time, decades old sports entertainment habits. You tell me that segment with Stokely Hathaway last night wasn't something you couldn't have seen on a Monday Night Raw in 2016. WWE doesn't even do that kind of shit anymore. What we saw last night. But it was par for the course, and somehow we're giving this guy free reign. Somehow it is so important that we get this Edge and Christian reunion, and we're doing it at the detriment of a feud that would have given some spotlight to a promising upcoming talent who is a legitimate prodigy of pro wrestling that is under the employ of AEW, who could have been a breakout star through this. No, we're going to set him aside because we need this for some reason. And that, I think, is the ultimate travesty here. And it is the perfect encapsulation of Adam Copeland's tenure in AEW, where it's all about himself, where he doesn't put anyone over. He lets himself fall into his worst instincts. And worst of all, Tony Khan is signing this off and saying, this is good shit, pal. And it's not. And I know the people on the Everything app, they love this angle. And that should be a sign that it wasn't good. That should be your sign that it stunk and that it is counterproductive and will be a detriment to the evolution of one guy who should have come out of a feud with Christian Cage looking stronger, better. It should have benefited him. But instead, no, we gotta rush through. We gotta rush through the uncaged feud because we've got to get to the FTR thing in Toronto. Look, admitted, I might be getting upset at things that haven't happened yet, and I hope things change. I hope things change course. Look, you never know who's listening to these kind of things. You never know, and I hope that anyone who's in charge will at least be able to recognize that. Yeah, you know what? We're doing it. We're doing Nick Wayne wrong here. We're doing Nick Wayne wrong. And we're doing our fans wrong, not giving a proper blow-off to a story that's been around for such a long time. It was such perfectly booked. You know, Christian Cage's instincts were so spot on the entire time. And look at the fucking promo he cut. What, it was last week right? Wasn't it last week? The terrible promo he cuts. The minute we fall back into Adam Copeland's vision, into how he wants to approach this angle, it falls apart. It stinks. And the people involved start getting worse. An awful segment that is setting up a terrible through line into All Out in Toronto and sacrificing a potential breakout moment for a future star, a young guy, 19 years old. He just turned 20, right? I think he just turned 20, Nick Wayne, whose entire career is in front of him, and you could start making him into something now, but no. I'm going to feed him. We're going to feed him to the Adam Copeland vortex, in which guys like Griff Garrison and Lee Moriarty and Daniel Garcia and Dante Martin have been in, and Big Bill. How you all doing? There's a little vignette, I guess you'd call it, with Hook's H being signaled in the sky. You know, the bat signal thing. So Hook's coming back. Then we get the six-man match where Brody King, Hologram, and Tomohiro Ishii are joined by the surprise New Japan guest Hiromu Takahashi. They defeat Josh Alexander, Kyle Fletcher, and the Young Bucks. This was probably the best match of the night, even though it was also it also lacked a little cohesion. It was good. It was good, but not great. It's not the match that I'm sitting here screaming at the top of my lungs, that this was so good. It's not a match of the year, or not even close, but for the matches that we got tonight, this was the best one. There was this one incredible sequence by the heels where that ended with Nick Jackson and Kyle Fletcher doing a TK driver on the ramp on Brody King. Everything that led up to that was so perfectly timed, and everyone was in their spot. Everyone was involved. All four guys, both of the Bucks, Alexander, Fletcher, and everyone was hitting their spots. Everyone was perfectly timed in the right spots, in the right places. And I was looking at this and this is great pro wrestling. This is world-class pro wrestling. It was awesome. But the match overall was okay. Look, I'm going to tell you, as far as Hiromu Takahashi goes, by the way, Hiromu Takahashi gets the win with the time bomb. I don't know if it's the time bomb 2 or just the regular time bomb. I think it's the 2. I have trouble differentiating my time bombs. And then there's a time bomb 2.5, right? I don't know I have trouble with the differences between the Hiromu's time bombs. That being said, I thought I was surprised because I think the conventional wisdom was that Hiroshi Tanahashi was going to be the guy who was going to challenge Fletcher, since he was already announced, didn't have his match yet. But then he was announced for the cage match. And so, we all started scratching our heads again. And look, if anything, it's different. If anything, it's new. And I am not going to spit on that. I'm going to be open to that. It's interesting. I don't know what 2025 Hiromu Takahashi can do anymore, honestly. This is a guy who's really banged up, probably more banged up than people realize. And being in a singles match with Kyle Fletcher is going to show just how much Hiromu can do in this day and age. And I'm very interested. And look, it's Kyle Fletcher, who is a tremendous pro wrestler. I think he's one of the best on the planet right now. It'd be hard. Look, he's a great partner for Hiromu. I think it has the potential to be an absolutely fantastic match. We'll just have to see how it goes, but I don't hate this idea. And Hiromu finally gets to work heavyweight, which is something I'm sure he's pretty happy about. Swerve Strickland comes out for another interview in the Mean Gene position with Renee Paquette, but he's interrupted by Kazuchika Okada, who comes out, tells Swerve that he has no chance to beat him with the knees. Somehow this is suddenly a thing that's becoming a thing. Oh, Renee talks about the injury. What injury? Swerve is injured? Oh yeah, I've got this injury, and Swerve doesn't want to talk about it. Then Okada comes and talks about it. And I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? So we're adding the knee here, this allegedly injured knee that Swerve has to establish, to give reason for Okada to get an easier win over Swerve, because Swerve will already be going into this match injured, although this hasn't been addressed before. You see what I mean? When things are just like slapdash together. This is very annoying. And I didn't think this segment worked really well. I thought, they did the pull apart thing after Swerve shoves Okada to the floor after Okada calls him a bitch. I don't know why people get upset at Kazuchika Okada calling them bitches. It's a comedy line. It's for the ha-has. It's jokes. I don't know why people are upset about it. I'd be like, tee-hee-hee. He said the word. Hee-hee-hee. I don't know. But you see what I mean when it comes to just throwing things together? Like, unless there's some talk about the knee that I completely missed, but I watch this fucking show every week. I don't know what this knee stuff, where this knee stuff is coming from. Look, let's move on. The next segment we have backstage. And look, you want to talk about WWE Raw stuff? Backstage, Moxley hears about the news of Tanahashi. I think it's Alicia Atut who announces that. And Moxley's like, oh, Tanahashi, huh? Okay, thank you. And then he goes, and then he walks away. The camera follows. And he opens the door just a little bit. He goes into the extras room, right? And he opens the door a little bit, walks in. And then they open the door a little more to show that the Bucks are there, and then everyone has a good giggle. Again, like I'm enjoying the Bucks angle so far. I think it's starting to run out of steam. I think it's starting to be like, okay, we get it. Now, what's the next thing we're gonna do with the Bucks? Because I thought it was funny. Slick Nick. I forgot to mention this. But Slick Nick coming out and Mr. What do they call him? Mr. Instant Replay. I enjoy it. I enjoy the thing. And, Justin Roberts is announcing and he says, this is these guys, doesn't even give them proper introductions. I enjoy this idea that everyone is just getting back at the Bucks because they're awful people. They've just been awful during the thing. I enjoy it. I think it's sort of slightly running out of steam, despite the fact that the Bucks are on TV every week and they're having incredible matches. So, it's like, what am I more upset about? What am I going to latch on to more? I'm going to latch on to the Bucks being on TV every week, having incredible matches. And if it means, them coming out to no music and enforcing the idea that they're not being respected by anyone, okay, that's fine, because then the Bucks hit the ring and they are having great matches. So I'll swallow that pill and I won't make that much of a big deal out of it. But nonetheless, this whole thing with the camera positioning and whatnot, I'm like, oh, all right. And then John Moxley closes the door and you're like, all right, this is, okay. Again, just like, yuck. I was already super annoyed at this point. I was annoyed with obviously with the Cope stuff. I was annoyed with the Strickland Okada stuff. Now I'm annoyed with this. One thing I wasn't annoyed with was the little attention to detail when the Bucks double super kicked Justin Roberts. Justin Roberts was taken out and he was gone for the rest of the show, right? You had Tony Schiavone who had to do in-ring introductions and whatnot moving forward. And that was a nice attention to detail instead of having, Justin Roberts go, "Arr." He's a non-wrestler. He takes a big, super kicks from the Young Bucks. He should be taken out. He should be dead. Then that leads us to the main event where the Ops defeated La Facción Ingobernable. Joe won with the Coquina clutch on Jalistico, which is pretty much what everyone expected, I think. I thought this was such an average, nothing match where I'm like, look, it did leave me with a taste of, hey, you know what? I would like to see Samoa Joe and Roosh, not the band, the wrestler. I would like to see Samoa Joe and Roosh go after each other for like 11 minutes and just stiff the shit out of each other. That's something where I'm like, I'd like to see that now. But this match is like just completely left me indifferent. And, Roosh was getting some good reactions. Tepid crowd, by the way. Not all that into what was going on. And I can't blame them. Wrestling was very, very average overall. A couple of bright spots here and there, but it wasn't the most exciting edition of Dynamite. So I don't blame them. And Roosh was getting good reactions. And I'm like, you know what? Put him in there with Joe. Just let those guys go at it. Put that on Forbidden Door. That's something I'd be into. I think there's something there. Roosh is champing at the bit to get some TV time and wrestle and knock some fools around. Why not do it with Joe? And Joe, I think he would have a great time with this. Like two tough guys, two guys who come across as legitimate tough guys, right? Just going in there and they're throwing bombs on each other. Tell me that wouldn't be great. I was thinking, what if in this match Shibata and Roosh go at it? And I'm like, well, does brain injury Shibata really go that hard anymore? Post brain injury, after getting his brain taken out of his head and put back in. Does he do that? Is him versus Roosh at this point, does that get really, really exciting? I don't know. I think 10 years ago would have been tremendous. That would have been awesome. But listen, I really don't have any notes here other than Powerhouse Hobbs, I think, has the best spine buster in the business. I really do. That snap that he puts into it, no one else does that. There's a little snap to when he does it. No one else does it as good as he does. Those are my thoughts. I don't know. I'm also a guy that would like Beast Mortos to be more of a beast in AEW, but look, he's working Arena Mexico these days and he's in main events. He's going to be in the main event. I think it's this Friday, right? Or in the co-main, like he's wrestling Mystico again. So he's probably like, yeah, this is cool as hell, kind of thing. He's dating Mercedes Moné. Why am I worried about Beast Mortos? This guy is fine. He's got a law degree. This is not what he's a veterinarian. Yeah, and he has a law degree. Like, this guy's fine. Why am I worried about the Beast Mortos? And the show ends with a very, very contrived and very, very lame garage, parking lot attack by MJF who blindsides Adam Page, saying, you think I can't break you? You ain't seen nothing yet. Something to that effect. And very uninspired, very, very lame. Lame is the word. Very lame way to end the show. I didn't think that was interesting or good. And again, it's just more derivative stuff from the other place. And it just fucking annoys me. I don't know. I was just super annoyed with the show Maybe it's not as bad as I'm making it out to be, but I thought it was a bad show. I don't think it was very good. Maybe not a bad show. It wasn't a very good show. I don't even think it was a good show. It was a bad show. Maybe not. I don't know. Look, I don't want to go as hard as say this was bad because we've seen bad Dynamites. But let me tell you one fucking thing. That Copeland segment, it's right up there. That is right up there with some of the worst segments ever put on in AEW. Right up there with Britt Baker and her hamburgers. All right? We are all the way up there. And we're going and we're supposed to be enjoying this and going, no, it's garbage and it's derivative. It's things that we've seen before. It's things that the other company has done so many times before and doesn't even do anymore. I am done with Adam Copeland. I am officially done. I am not into this reunion thing for the reasons I explained. And I think it really sucked a lot of my enjoyment out of the show. I don't think the matches were all, I think everything was like fine. This, the match with the 8-person tag match, that was good, but it's not great or anything. And it's just compared to everything else, it was the most entertaining match of the show. I did like Jon Moxley and Kevin Knight. Maybe we should curb that. There were 2 good matches there, but nothing that you're like banging your hand against the wall and saying, "Oh my God, this was tremendous." Just everything felt hastily put together, a little slapdash. I didn't feel the care that goes into Dynamite this week. I didn't feel the care that has been going on for months now. I didn't feel it, and it's troublesome. And I think we should be worried because the NFL is starting up. And if we're getting into a situation like last year where Tony is spending more time doing NFL things than booking Dynamite, we're in for a rough fall once again, fall and early winter. We're in for it again, folks. I hope not. I hope they have contingency plans. I hope they have something set up so that it doesn't happen again. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up on that note. I think I went a little long. Thank you very much for listening. If you're here still at the end, I would appreciate a like on this video, God damn it. If you're watching it on YouTube, or a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or a 5-star rating on Spotify. I will be back streaming later tonight on Thursday. If you're listening to this on the Thursday, I'll be back later tonight to stream. Otherwise, just subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't miss out on that. And follow. And then I'll be back next week with the Mr. Warren Hayes Show and all sorts of goodies. So thank you all so very much for listening. Go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me. And I will see you next time.